here we go. So today's training, Dotloop training, going to be in 3 sections. The first section is how to set up your loop for success. The second section is how to submit your loop for review so you can get paid, what the state needs, what Lair needs, and step 4 is all the tips and tricks. So as I was saying, everybody who belongs to the MLS PIN gets a basic watered down version of Dotloop, but that wasn't good enough for Stacy. So we have a brokerage account, and in order for you to get all the bells and whistles, you have to be invited into this Dotloop. And so that's what we do. So when you become an agent and we get all of your paperwork that we need, you will get an email from me inviting you into the brokerage, Lair Brokerage Dotloop, that has over 3,000 interactive forms. We have forms for the state of Connecticut, for the state of Massachusetts, for the state of New Hampshire. We have Rhode Island. We have Maine. All of those are interactive forms that are built into the system because Stacy pays for the brokerage account. So again, you have to log into Dotloop on the email that we give you because again, like I said, this is a paid account that's being paid by Stacy so that you can have access to all of that. Also, every single MAR form is in here. So there's thousands and thousands of forms in here. So how do you know you're in the brokerage account? I'm going to show you this. This is my actual, I'm an admin as well. So this is my admin account. So I want to go to my training account. This is my training profile. And how do you know you're in the right brokerage account? Right over here in the left-hand side, it should say premium. If it says premium over here, then you're in the brokerage account. If it says you have trial loops, or if it ever asks you for money, you're not in the right account. You're not in the brokerage account. So that's how you're going to know. Another thing before we get going, what I want to tell you is anything that's blue is an interactive field, and you can click on it. Anything that's blue is an interactive field. You're going to want to get used to filling in those forms, those places there. Also, 90% of what you're going to do in Dotloop is going to be on the right-hand side. In other words, all of your functions are going to be on the right-hand side of the screen, 90% of it. So step 1, section 1 in our training today is how to set up your loop for success, okay? So before I go into how to do this, one of the main questions we get quite often is, when should you set your loop up for, when should you create the loop? The great thing about Dotloop is it's the same answer if you're a listing agent or buyer agent. I'm not sure if my guests online, if you want to put in the chat, are you more of a buyer agent or a seller's agent? Put that in the chat because I will try to focus my training on the kind of agent you are. If you're both, that's fine. We can cover both. But the answer to the question is, when should you, okay, so we got both. Okay, very good. So when should you set up your loop? Okay, everybody knows that if you're a buyer agent, you need the agency disclosure filled out prior to showing your first property, correct? And if you're a listing agent, in order prior to a listing going live, we need the agency disclosure, the exclusive right to list, lead paint if it's built from 1978. So the answer is the same. You should create your loop right at the onset of meeting your client. So you get a call from your client, yes, you want to meet, that's when you should set it up. Right in the beginning. Don't worry if it falls apart, we can archive the loop for you. So step 1 is number 1 in how to set up your account for success is to create the loop. So how do you do that? Very easy. Again, on the right-hand side, big blue thing here, we're going to hit this here. And now we're just going to follow these 4 steps. Now, if you're a buyer agent, you can look this up by the MLS address, but obviously we'll say that we're going to be a listing agent today. And so we are going to list 123 Main Street in East Longmeadow. Now we do ask that you do set up your loops by the address. Now, if you're representing the buyer here, of course, we don't know the address. So you're going to put in the buyer's name and then we'll change it later on. And I'm going to show you how to do that, how to change the loop name. because all loops should be submitted for review by address. So now I'm just going to go over here and hit the continue button. And what it's asking me to pick a template. So it's asking you, what kind of agent are you going to be? Listing agent, buyer agent. Now I want to show you something. If I hit continue on here, it's going to give me a warning. I have to pick what type of agent I am. So I am going to be, for this training purposes, I am going to train. Now here's the down. These are all the loop templates that we have all made for our agents. So you can be Massachusetts listing, Massachusetts buyer, Massachusetts rental tenant, commercial. We have New Hampshire listing, New Hampshire buyer, New Hampshire rental, Maine listing, Maine buyer, Rhode Island listing, Rhode Island buyer, Connecticut listing, Connecticut lease. We have Florida folders. So these are all the templates. And let me explain it this way. In the olden days, you used to come to the office, get a manila folder, and used to write on the outside of the folder your client's name or the street address, correct? Then you would walk over, take your manila folder, and you would walk over where there's forms, and you would place all the forms that you needed in your folder, because everybody knows that a listing agent and a buyer agent, some of the forms are the same, but some of them are different. And so instead of pulling in all forms that you do not need, we have created templates that will only have the paperwork that you need at whatever you're representing. So for this training purposes, I'm going to write that I'm a listing agent and I want listing paperwork put into this folder. So now if I hit again on the right-hand side, this blue and continue, you could upload a picture. You could skip this space, but I'm just going to show you how to do it. You just upload, you're going to find your pictures under pictures, and you're just going to put a picture in here. Now that's a terrible picture, so we'll delete that. But I like to do that because sometimes you can upload a picture of the property, because sometimes you remember the property more than the street address. So you can put in you can put in the picture of the property. And this one, I just put, this is called Take Flight. I love this. It's a bird. And now you're just going to hit done. So what it's doing is it's actually thinking for you. It's saying, okay, Lisa is a listing agent. She's created the loop. It's called 123 Main Street. And now what Dotloop is doing, it is putting into your loop here all the necessary paperwork you're going to need to be as a listing agent. And so here, you're always going to really should fill out anything that's blue is interactive, and you really should fill it out. So we'll put this as an active listing, and we're going to put the price at $750,000. Okay. So we're going to set the price. And now this is like having the manila folder closed. Okay. And now when I click on to view the loop, it's going to be like opening up the folder so that I could see all of the paperwork. So step one in creating a successful loop is, number one, create the loop. Step two, which is very important, please do not skip this step. This is a very important step. And what you want to do is you're going to scroll down all the way down to the people section right here. And step two is to create or add your people along with roles. Now, every time you create a loop, it's going to make you're going to be in there. You never have to add yourself, but you do have to add what kind of role you are. So I'm going to write, I'm the listing agent. Why is this important? Everywhere on the paperwork that I have to sign as an agent, because I gave myself the role of a listing agent, everywhere I need to sign a document, it's going to give me the availability to sign by just one click. Okay, so the role is very important. Please do not skip this step. So we're going to add our client. Now, Mary Glavy has been gracious enough. She's on my every training for me, and she always acts as my buyer or seller. I'm going to give Mary the role. Very important to add the role, because everywhere that Mary, our seller, needs to sign that paperwork, it'll sign her name. So if you skip this step, you're causing a lot of havoc for yourself. You do not want to skip this step. So you want to add your seller or your buyer, and you want to give them a role. Now, this information is going to be required at the time of submitting for review. If you don't want to fill this out now, you don't have to, but you are going to need this information later. As long as you're adding the person, their email address, and their role, we can X out of this. So now, if you notice, oh, I forgot, I didn't actually use the add button, and I need to add her. Okay, so I did that. So I'm going to put her as a buyer, and I forgot to add person. So that's how easy it is to add a person. Now, a lot of people don't like to add the buyer agent, but I say add the buyer agent. A lot of people don't want to add them because they think that if I add people to the people section, they're going to be able to see everything in my loop. They're going to see all the offers. That is not true. So what I would do is, who would you add in a transaction? I would definitely add the buyer agent. Or if you're the buyer agent, I would add the list agent, because more than likely you are going to have to share documents back and forth. This is one-stop shopping. All you got to do is open up your Dotloop, and you can actually do business anywhere as long as you can access your Dotloop account. So I would definitely add the buyer agent. So I'm going to add Pina Marino, and I'm going to give him the role as the buyer agent. Okay. So now in here, I have the buyer agent, I have me, the list agent, and I have, oh, I gave Mary a buyer. I don't want Mary to be the buyer, so I'm going to change her. I'm going to change Mary because Mary's my seller. So step 1 is create the loop. Step 2 is to add the people along with the role. And I'm going to say this again, please do not skip step 2. Add your people and assign them the role. Step 3 to a successful setting up your loop for success is to go in here and fill out this paperwork. So I'm going to show you, these are all interactive forms that you can fill out, and send to your client. Before we do that, I just want to go and I want to set you up for success. So this first folder here, so these are folders inside the loop. So you have a loop, and then inside the loop, you're going to have folders. And here is the folder. This is everything right here in this listing folder that you can possibly need for a transaction. Okay. Down here, you have in another folder called Other Important Documents. What I would do is collapse that, which you just click on it, and all it does is just close the folder. Okay, they're still there, but this gives you a very clean workspace. Okay, you don't need to look at all those forms. It just distracts you. Right here, we have made it that pretty much 90% of what you're going to need is in the listing folder. So step 3 in setting up your loop for success was to fill out the paperwork. So how do you do that? So what you're going to do is you're going to just click on the first one. Now see, these are required because Lair requires this. The state requires this one, the exclusive right to sell. The state requires mandatory agency license disclosure, and the state and Lair requires a signed purchase and sale. So what you want to do is we're going to click on the first one. What it's going to do is it's asking you, Dotloop is saying, hey, we recognize that Mary's your seller and that you're the agent. Do you want us to autofill? And I'm going to say yes, autofill. So what it does down here is you'll notice it assigned and put Mary. So instead of going and adding a signature and dropping it and assign it, it's already done this for you because you gave Mary the role as the seller. Now, Dotloop defers to there's always going to be defaults to 2 sellers and 2 buyers. If there's only 1 seller, all you have to do is click on the ones that aren't this can be signed by Mary. Okay, that we'll leave those the way. So what we're going to do is we're going to save this because we auto-filled it. We're not going to share at this time, and I'm going to tell you why, because there's 3 other forms or 2 other forms that we have to send our client. And if I shared this now, they're going to get 3 separate emails. So there's a way that Dotloop did it where you can share all of the forms in one email. So what I'm going to do is I just saved that, and we're not going to share. It's giving us a warning that you haven't shared it. And now I'm going to go in. I'm going to do that one more time. I'm going to fill in the exclusive right to sell. And it's going to ask, do you want to autofill? And I'm going to say yes. So you just say yes, autofill. And now it put in Mary Glavy's name. It put in Lair Realty Partners. And this is because we gave Mary the role as the seller. It's going to fill in her name. This comes out great. My last name is Peruccio, and a lot of people don't know how to spell it. And so a lot of times we get clients with very difficult names maybe to spell, or you can't remember how to spell it. If you put it in one time under that people section and spell it accurately, every single time your client's name shows up on any form, it's going to be typed right. So that's a big thing. Remember, all these blue things are interactive. You can double check them. This is where you're going to put your showings. You're going to put your percentage right here. We'll give ourselves a whopping 8%. How do you like that? And then if you come down to where people sign, right now it's assigned to Mary. She's already got a position to sign. You don't have to do anything. I'm going to show you how easy this is for you as the listing agent now to sign paperwork. This is me. I'm just going to hover over and I'm going to write sign now, and it's going to adopt my signature. So basically that's it. And it only did that because I put the role that I am the listing agent. Okay. So now remember what I said, that Dotloop defaults to 2 buyers and 2 sellers at all times. If you only have 1 buyer or 1 seller, just click the one that does not have the person's name. You're going to go over here to assign, and you're going to assign it to nobody. Okay. And now you're going to save that one. So we're just going to go out. I'm not going to share again. I'm not sharing at this time. I'm going to show. So basically you want to go in and you fill out all of the paperwork at one time. Okay, we're going to autofill this. Now, the state of Massachusetts, we use this same form both for the seller and the buyer. So it's very important that you make sure you check off which one you are here. We as a company, if you work for Lear, you are always a designated agency. That's why we checked it off for you. You were never non-designated agent, but you do have to sign. You have to check off here. And then we're going to sign again. Just going to assign my name. Now, notice how it has my name spelled out and it has my license number. I will never have to fill in my license number. The reason that is because I put my license number in my profile, and I'll show you how to do that later. And I'll put that I'm a broker. And here's Mary, okay? She is our seller. We're going to check off seller. It put her name. It spelled her name. You're never going to have to do that again because you gave her the role as the seller. So we only have 1 seller here. We're going to click the box that doesn't have Mary's name. We're going to go up here and assign that field to no one. And now we're going to save that. So now we have all of our paperwork filled out. And now what we're going to do is I'm going to send in one email these 3 documents for our seller, Mary Glavy, to sign. Now notice how it's changed from required to not submitted. This is saying that you filled it out, but you didn't submit it to the Dotloop team to approve it. We don't need to do that now, but I'm just trying to tell you what this means, okay? So now what I want to do is I went in, I filled all of these, and I want to send all 3 of these documents to our seller in one email, okay? So what you do is once I click on this, you're going to see a big blue share button. Again, it's going to be on the right-hand side. Remember I said 90% of what you're going to do is on the right-hand side. And once I start to click off what I want to send, you saw the big share button. When I hit this share button, it's going to open up the email system that's built into Dotloop. And notice how it's already checked off Mary because it recognizes that Mary needs to sign these forms because she is the seller. And that's because we assigned her the role as seller. And so it also assigned her that she can sign because it knows she needs to sign these. So now notice how Peter Marino is here, but it's not checked off. Dotloop does the thinking for you. They're saying in those forms, the buyer agent does not have to sign those forms. So therefore, it did not check him off and it did not give him the ability to sign. So what it does is down here, you're going to just do your message. Hello, Mary. Please sign docs. Okay. Now, before we share this, I want to go over this, attach PDF to email. I always tell the agents and train the agents that they should check that off. Why do we do that? What this does, excuse me, what this does is it enables your client to sign electronically using the Dotloop links, but it also gives them ability to print them as a PDF, or maybe they want, before they sign anything, they want their attorney to see it. Or maybe it's an older couple and the kids want to see it before they sign anything. So what it does, it gives your client an ability to forward the email to their attorney or to the kids. And then the kids have those documents as a PDF. They cannot change them because they're PDF, but they could at least read through and then they can go, okay, mom, you can sign it. Or the attorney can say, yes, Mary, you can sign those. Those are legitimate documents. Then they can go back to their email and sign electronically. So I always tell my clients or my training when I'm training my agents, is you should always check this off. Again, it just gives your client two ways of signing the documents. Now, when I hit share, you're going to see that it sent those 3 documents and it's waiting on others, because that's what it says here. We're going to hit the done sign. And notice how now it says waiting on others. So now we're just waiting for Mary, our seller, to sign these. But basically, we have now set up the loop for success. We have created the loop. We have added the people to the people section and their roles, and we filled out the paperwork and we sent it to our client. So that's the first section of training. Does anybody have any questions? If you do, just put it in the chat. My next section of training is we're going to go into how to submit a loop for review. Now, Mary Glavy is signing these documents as we speak. Now, notice how, thank you, Mary. Now, notice how you can come in here and we can see that Mary did sign these documents. So this is really good, because if you share something, maybe you're a very busy agent, you have 2 or 3 closings, or you have 2 or 3 dealings in 1 month, and you can't remember if you sent the forms for your client to sign, if they even signed them. So if you just open up your loop, you can see, okay, yep, I sent her those forms, they're signed, we're good to go. We can start listing the house. We can put the house on the MLS, and we can lay it, because really, by law, you are supposed to have these signed documents before you even put a house active in the MLS. These documents are required. At least these 2 are absolutely required to be fully executed prior to putting a listing on the MLS as active listing. So we're going to go into, I don't see any questions, so I'm going to go into submitting a loop for review. What does this mean? Submitting a loop for review is, we have a Dotloop team. We have Dotloop team 1, Dotloop team 2, and what they're responsible for doing is, this team is responsible to make sure that Lair Realty Partners has all the necessary paperwork that the state requires if we get audited, also have the required paperwork that Lair is required to have, or that Stacy, our CEO, wants us to have. And so what they do is they just go in and they make sure that all of your I's are dotted, all your T's are crossed, every paperwork that you need in order for this loop to be approved for commission is in here. Now, before I do submit for review, I want to show you that every single loop that you create has this pending checklist. You can bring it up, actually, you can scroll it up, just hold it and bring it up wherever you want to. And if you click on it and open it up, this is saying autofill. This is going to tell you everything that you need. If you pull up this buyer pending transaction, and this form is in every single loop you make. So if it's a Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Connecticut, it's in there. This is going to tell you the paperwork that we need fully executed in order for your loop to be approved. So if you want to make sure you don't have any headaches and that you're going to get paid on time when that closes, you're going to want to pull up this form and you're going to want to say, okay, I am the listing agent. This is what they're telling me I'm going to need. If I have all of this in the loop fully executed, I will not have a problem. So let's go over it. Agency disclosure, listing agreement, purchase and sale agreement with all addendums, okay? A lot of people have these three things, but they do not have addendums fully executed. That means all parties have signed. You needed an extension. Your client signed it, but you don't have a fully executed addendum with the buyer's signature. That's going to be sent back to you from the Dotloop team because all addendums become part of the purchase and sale. Seller's disclosure, this is not a required document in Massachusetts. However, it is required in Connecticut and New Hampshire. So we're going to need that. Signed offer. You really should do your clients' due diligence. You should really have fully executed offers in the loop, okay? Lead paint, only if built prior to 1978. So we don't need it. It was built in 1978 or later. Copies of all deposit checks, and the affiliated business arrangement disclosure. This has become a required document as of October 1st of 2023 per Stacy. Basically, it's letting her, your client know that Stacy does have an affiliated business arrangement with Coast to Coast. That has to be signed. We are seeing more and more companies doing this. Okay, so across the board, more and more CEOs are having this form required as well. It doesn't mean they have to use the affiliated business. It's just letting them know that she does have an affiliated business. They have to sign it. If they use that, coast to coast closings, or if they don't. So if you have in your loop these things, you're going to definitely have your loop approved. So what I want to do is we're going to go back here because I want to show you how to submit for review. So when should you submit for review? The same answer for if you're a listing or a buyer, the answer is the same for both. After purchase and sales are signed and all monies are retrieved if you're a listing agent. If you're a buyer agent, you're going to want to submit for review after inspections because we all know that if a deal is going to fall apart, it's usually in inspections. So I say once the purchase and sale is fully executed by all parties and Lair has received all the monies and you have passed the inspections and you're good to go, that's when you want to submit for review. Okay. Doesn't matter that the closing is 3 weeks, 4 weeks out, because what submit for review does, it lets our Dotloop teams know, hey, I'm going to have a closing in 4 weeks, and I really want you to start looking at my paperwork to make sure all my I's are dotted and my T's are crossed. And you can understand that in a company that has 800 agents, and we have 2 Dotloop people who, 3 actually, who approve loops, it can get a little backed up. However, it never does. Our Dotloop team is fantastic at doing this. So you're going to want to submit for review. Now, I'm going to hit the submit for review button. Now, notice again, it's on the right-hand side of the screen. Now, it cannot submit for review because additional details are required in order to submit. We don't have the property address in here, and we're going to need our client Mary's information. Okay. Now, it does look like you can fill it in here. We all know that the property address that we're selling isn't always where our client lives. And it's a little confusing. This looks like you can fill it out here, but this is only a pop-up window that's saying this is the information we are going to need. And if you scroll down, it's going to need the property information and it needs a lot of our buyers' information. And let me ask you something. Let me just make a statement here. We have gotten audited one time and the state comes in here and they look for this. They want to know, because if they may want to contact the client. So they're going to need their phone number and they're going to need their address. Okay. So this is not something that Stacy's requiring. This is the state is requiring this. Okay. So we're going to exit out of here. And this is where you input all of that information right here. View details. So it needed the property address. If you scroll down, now the property address may be here all on one line. That's fine, but it's not accepted. It needs to be broken down by this. So we are going to make that the property address we're selling and the address of our seller is the same property. We do not need county. We tried to take this out, and this is a non-default. You cannot take this out because we wanted to take this out. You are going to need the MLS. You have to put MLS. The good thing about this, if this is a non-MLS, you can actually say non-MLS. So it'll take numbers and it'll take alphabetical characters. So which is good. So you can actually type in non-MLS, but you should always have the MLS in there. And of course, we need the year built. This is something that the state will come in. They will say, I need you to run a report. I want to see all of your active listings that are built prior to 1978. What are they looking for? They're looking for that lead paint. Why are they looking for it? Because that lead paint is usually filled out wrong. And so we're going to put in here 1990 because I don't want to go into that. We're just going to put in this with the year. So you need the year. And then also we needed to, so I'm going to go and save this. And if you go up here, you can hit submit for review and it's still going to say, okay, you have the property information, but we're missing Mary's information. So again, it looks like you can fill it in here until you get to the state and then it won't allow you to fill it in. So you need to go into the view details, which I'm in. You're going to find Mary the seller and you're going to fill in this. Remember this popped up when we added Mary as a seller in the people section. I think it's easier if you just fill this out when you're adding the people because you probably have the information there anyways in front of you. So we don't need the company name. We do need where she lives. We're going to put that she lives at the same address that we're selling. Again, it needs to be broken down by street number, street name, city. It has to be broken down by this. Okay. And then the zip code. We do not need the cell phone number. This is the default phone number. Just put the cell or landline here. You can leave cell phone blank. You don't have to put that in. And then we don't need marital status either. You're going to save this. And now I'm going to try to submit this for loop. You could do it right here if you want to, or you could go back to the main loop here. And we're going to submit for a loop. Now, before we submit for a loop, remember I told you this is a loop, but inside the loop, there's a listing folder and a buyer and the other folder. So when I hit the submit for a loop for review, it is saying, which of the two folders in the loop do you want to select? We only have the signed paperwork in this one, and we are going to say that it's a listing review, and we're going to submit. Okay, so there's an open document here, which means that one of these is a required document. So we need a purchase and sale in here because it's required. So what we're going to do is I am going to add a document to this loop. I'm going to add a document, sorry. I'm going to add a document. I'm going to browse. I'm going to go to my downloads and I'm going to put in this. Now we're going to pretend I can rename this. So I'm going to go over to the three dots again on the right-hand side. I'm going to rename this and I'm going to write this and name this fully executed PNS. Okay. And if you click off the screen now, if you have something that's a PDF, so say you have hard signatures, you actually didn't have the PNS signed by electronically, you had them sign in person or the attorney signed it. You're just going to take the one that's a PDF, drag it over the required one. It's going to give you saying replace with, and you're going to say, it's going to give you this warning. You're about to replace the standard purchase and sale and kind of with the fully executed. You say yes. And now it's changed it. Okay, so now I can submit for review and I can put the listing folder and we're going to pay it's a listing and then we're going to submit for review. So now you'll see that these are submitted for review. This folder, I just accidentally made it. So if I want to get rid of it, I'm just going to archive it. Because really you only want to see what you need to work on. Okay. So now this has been submitted. This is where you're going to want to look. If you're a very busy agent, you have 2 or 3 closings in the next 2 months, and you can't remember if you submitted the loop for review, this is how you're going to know. You're going to say, oh yeah, I did. I submitted them because it says submitted. So you don't have to worry about it. So I'm going to stop right here in case anybody has any questions. This is how you submit for review. Very easy, couple of things. And now I'm going to, I don't see any chat. Just type any questions in the chat. I'm going to go into my third phase of training, which is my favorite, which is all the tips and tricks that I like to use. So the very first thing I want to show you is how to add a folder inside the loop, okay? Again, right-hand side, it's blue, right-hand side, just click on it. You can rename it. So I'm going to just take and drag, and I'm going to write buyer folder here. Because let's see, we had somebody on the call who does both. They're listing agents and they're buyer agents. So what you're going to do, you don't necessarily have to create a loop for your buyer and a loop for your seller. You could use the same loop. What you're going to do is you're just going to add a folder, and you're going to add, change it to the buyer folder. So what do you need here? You're probably going to need an offer here. How do you do that? I'm going to show you how to add 3 ways to add a document into the loop. So right here, these are all your interactive forms. There's thousands of them in here. You're going to click this, and then you're going to just go over here to the layer master file, and you're going to put contract to purchase. And there it is, offer contract to purchase. I'm going to check that. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to hit OK. And look what it did. It added that document. This is an interactive form. So that means that they can sign electronically. So I added that to here. So let's show you, that was one way to add a document to your loop. Another way, again, add document on the right-hand side of the screen. This is where you're going to browse your computer to see, maybe you have the purchase and sale been sent to you by the seller and it's on your computer. So you can then just scan your downloads. And here's the lead paint. So I'm going to upload the lead paint. There's the lead paint. So this can only be PDFs, okay? A lot of agents are taking photos of signed documents. Really shouldn't do that. It's not professional whatsoever. And if you ever need a document, it doesn't look good. And if you ever go to print it, it prints it as a picture. So you are wasting your ink. So, and ink is expensive. So what I suggest is that you just convert everything to PDFs, which is portable document format. That's what PDF stands for. And that's how you would do it. Here, this is another function. This is one of my, I love this function. So every single time you create a loop, it actually has a built-in email that will drop PDFs directly from your email into this loop without making a duplicate loop. Okay, let me say that again, because a little bit, there was a lot in that sentence. So we all have come to the point where we create the loop as a listing agent. The buyer agent also does Dotloop, and they send you an offer through Dotloop. If you click on that in your email to look at the offer, it's going to create another loop, a separate loop in Dotloop. So now you have your loop called 123 Main Street, and now you have the buyer agent's loop called 123 Main Street. It gets confusing. So I'm going to show you how to avoid that. What you want to do is, here's my email. Peter Marino sent me an offer. Okay. What I want to do, there's the offer. I don't want to click on the offer. I don't want to see the offer through Dotloop. That's not how you want to open it, because it's going to create another loop with the exact same name. What you want to do is you're going to go to Dotloop first. You're going to open up your loop. You're going to go to email. You're going to copy this email, which is an email system that's going to drop any PDF that's attached to an email is going to drop in here. You then go to your, this is the email from Peter Marino offer. There's the offer. What you're going to do is you're going to forward that email. So I'm going to hit the forward button. And I am going to paste that email. And what it's going to do is when I hit send, it's going to drop this PDF directly into my loop that I created. So I'm going to now send that. And you will see that it's going to show up over here. I had the buyer folder picked off, so that's where it's going to show. But I'm going to show you that it's going to show up right here. You do have to refresh the page. And let me see, I'm just going to do it again because sometimes it does take, because it is going over the internet. Now there it is. See how it dropped that PDF directly into the folder without making a duplicate loop. So I love that feature. I know a lot of agents don't know this, that there's a email address built directly into every single loop, and it'll drop in PDFs in here. I'm going to pause here just in case anybody has a question on that, because it's a great feature. Okay. I don't see any questions. So that's how the 3 ways to add a document. Now, I want to go into something here. We have a PDF. This is one of the biggest reasons why loops are not approved, is because of this lead paint form. So we're going to go to the bottom of the left paint form, to the very signature page on the bottom here. Now, Mary, our seller, check this off. Okay. Now, you know, as a buyer agent, you have to go in here. You're going to add the initials, and you're going to put your client's initials there. Now, notice how the Dotloop team cannot see if this is on D or E. Okay. So you have to size this so it fits. So how do you do that? You're just going to take your cursor until you get the 2 arrows. You hold down and you hold your cursor down and drag until you got it the way you want it. And then you want to assign this. I'm just going to pretend I'm just going to assign it to Mary to sign. Okay, even though she was our seller, now she's our buyer. But notice how we know definitely that that's in D. So I want to show you that again, because this is why a lot of the loops are not approved. So you're going to go into add, you're going to add an initial because you need to add it. You're going to place it where you want it, just like that. And then you want to get those 2 arrows on each side. You hold and drag to place it where you want. Then you let go. And then you want to assign it to whoever you want to assign. Now, you're going to need to do this for you as the agent down here. You could just click and sign, but if you want to make it really nice, you can make that so it fills, and then you assign it to, we'll assign it to Peter. Okay. And then again, you need to add a signature. The buyer needs to sign. You're going to assign it to the buyer. Just like that. You're going to save it, and then you're going to share it. So I like to show that. Make sure you're checking these boxes off. Okay, this is done incorrectly because you have to check as an agent if your client is going to receive the 10-day or waive the 10-day. So there is one that says add. You're just going to click it on there. And even as an agent, you can click and add it. You just check it, put the cursor in there like that. So you really want that. Make sure the complete address is on the bottom. Okay, because this, if the state came in and you only had 123 Mayan Street, that they're gonna, it's a fine. It's a $10,000 fine for that. If this wasn't checked, that's another 10,000. If they can't tell where this is, that's another 10,000. So one wrong lead paint form could cost Lair thousands and thousands of dollars. So I do like to go over that. That's a very big thing in training, is how to get those to work. Now, I do want to show you how to change the title here. Remember, if you were a buyer agent, your loop was going to have your client's name. So I want to go into, you're going to go into view details. You're going to want to learn this view details tab because you actually use that quite a lot. So view details, it's blue. Anything blue is interactive. And right here, use custom name. Now, if you have your loop set up as Mr. and Mrs. Jones, you can leave it as Mr. and Mrs. Jones. Just add the street name in front of it. So if you go here and you use your arrows over here, I can add Mr. and Mrs. Jones right here. Jack and Megan Smith. And if I hit save, just remember to hit save, it just changed it. So now you can search this loop either by Jack and Megan Smith, or you can do it by 123 Main Street. So you're just going to use this use custom name. That's where you do that. And I just make sure you hit the save button. So I'm going to come over here. So this is our loop open, remember? So I just wanted to go into that. I'm going to go over and talk to, this is where the built-in email system is. So this is how Dotloop is going to be, this is how Dotloop is going to be talking to you, the Dotloop team. So I just want you to know how to get into the built-in email system. It's right up here. Again, it's blue and it's on the right-hand side of the screen. And now you notice that I have two people. Everybody that you have listed in the people section will show up here. So if you have the seller's attorney or the paralegal, it'll show up here. So whoever is in black is who you're talking to. Okay, so this was the email that I sent Mary recently. So if I want to send the buyer agent, we'll say, hey, I never got the extension. Hello, Peter, never received extension. Please send. Okay, so what I'm doing is, if it's in black, it's who you're sending it to, and you type in the message and then you just send it. So now that's the messages that I've sent to Peter. These are going to be all the messages that I sent to your client. Dotloop team is going to be sending you messages here. So if they're asking you, hey, the lead paint is wrong, or you need this, or you need that, what you could do is you can, that's how they just communicate back and forth. So I wanted to show you where we have a question, where that is. In lead-based paint disclosure, assigned buyer and seller signature initial is supposed to sign by client. Buyer or seller signature initial is supposed to sign by client. Oh, okay. So in the lead paint disclosure, assigned buyer or seller signature initial is supposed to be signed by client. Yes. So you're assigning that, if I'm understanding your question right, under the lead paint, the seller should have this listed on the MLS. So what you're going to do, if you're a buyer agent, this should already be filled out by your seller. You as an agent are going to upload this from the MLS, or the listing agent's going to send it to you. And then as a buyer agent, you have to put your client's name in here. They have to do this one, and this one according to the way this is done. You're going to have to check this or this, and the listing agent should initial here, you are to initial here, and then all necessary signatures need to be down here. He is right. You need to add your signature as an agent and sign it. So I will assign it to me and I can sign this now. So what he was basically saying, which is correct, I have to sign that. I'm going to sign this. I'm going to sign this now. Let's see, sign now. So I sign that now. So just make sure you save everything. Good question. So hopefully I answered your question. If I understood it right. If not, just say it again and I'll go in there. So we gone over the built-in email section. Yes, thank you. Okay, great. Good question. Please, I love interaction. If you have any questions whatsoever, please put them in here. If there's something, okay, I had one, somebody called because I get all these, somebody was having trouble with multiple buyers, and they could get the first person to sign it electronically, but then they could never get the second person to sign. So I want to go over that really quick because that's a very good point, and I usually forget to talk about that. So each person in the transaction needs their own email. So a husband and wife cannot share an email address, okay? So that's very important. And that's probably why the other person could never sign. So if I added another person and I put, okay, we have Christine Bastek as a seller on this as well. I'm just going to add her and put her as the seller as well. Let me see. Hold on. I don't know what happened there. I wanted to add another seller. So we're just going to do this. and I'm going to give her the role as seller. So we're going to add the person. Now, these two people, these are your sellers. So you have two sellers, and I think you can move them up. Oh, no, you can't. Okay. So you have two sellers. Now, they have to have a different email address or they're not going to be able to sign. But if they were two sellers and we needed a form and you had them set up like this down here and you shared it, it would give them the opportunity to sign both of them electronically. The great thing, the reason why I like this better than DocuSign is you can have 6 people sign at the same time. Where DocuSign, you have to have one person sign, then you have to send it to the next person. So we sold my mother's house, my mother and father's house, and there was 6 of us on the deed. So we all had to sign all the paperwork. With Dotloop, you can send the same purchase and sale to someone who lives in California. They can sign at the same time as somebody who lives in South Carolina, and they can sign same person who lives in Massachusetts. You don't have to get one signature, sign it, then send it to the next person. That's why I like Dotloop over DocuSign, is because they give you the opportunity that all parties can sign at any time, which I really like. So I wanted to go over that. I want to go over this over here. I'm going to go to, this is your dashboard. And right now I'm going to the filter system and it's only showing me my solds. So if I uncheck all of the loop status and I hit apply, it's going to show every single loop that I've ever made in my training loop. And it goes on and on forever. So it's showing purchases, it's showing pre-listing, it's showing under agreement. So if you're a busy agent, you're probably only going to want to see the things you're working on. You're probably going to want to sort by active listings and under agreement. If you check what you want and you hit apply, it's now only going to show you those things. It's only going to show you active or under agreement. It's not going to show you sold. It's not going to show you archives. It's not going to show you full parts, because you can tell right here you have 2 filters on. Okay. If you're a person and you want to see everything, you're just going to hit the filters and you're going to make sure that you uncheck all of these. That's why it's very important to fill out the status. You should always be filling out the status. When something becomes under agreement, change it to under agreement. Changed it from active listing to under agreement. Then it's going to prompt you to add the price. Add the price. Okay. And now it's showing me archived because I have the archive. If you go to this filters, I have hide archive. So let me do this. Oh, I have that checked. Let me see. I want to all apply. So that brings me to the next thing I want to talk about. So under the status, you never, ever, ever want your a transaction that goes from start to finish. So you get a listing, you find a buyer, you sell the house. That should always stay as sold. Please don't ever archive sold things, sold transactions that have gone all the way. So the only time you want to archive is somebody that it fell apart. It's no good. Okay. You're going to want to do that. Or if, the buyer, it's just too crazy and the buyer wants to terminate it, or the offer was withdrawn. But your sold should say sold because of why. I'm going to tell you why. Because at the end of the year or the beginning of the year, you may want to send a letter to just all the people that you sold things to. Sold properties. So now it's only going to show me my solds. Now, if you don't want to see your archives, you're just going to go to the filter and you're going to hit hide archive and hit apply. And notice how it took away the hard archives. So this is great. It's the end of the year. You may want to send a holiday card to all of the people that you sold in 2024. It may be the beginning of the year and you want to do kind of like, what's the market look like in 2025? Are you interested in listing your house? These are the reasons why. You can go in and you can, do solds, or you could do anybody that listed with you, or maybe you want to do ones that fell apart. And these are people that said, the market was too rough. There wasn't enough inventory. It was too cutthroat for me. But maybe the year in 2025, it's going to stabilize, and you can go back to those who were looking and say, hey, it's stabilized. Why don't we start looking for a home again? So I do like to tell you how to filter. Also, I have this filtered so that it's showing me my most recent first, but you can do it by your latest date. By just hitting this arrow, it's giving me my oldest one first. So if you do it, I like this, my most recent. You can also sort by creation date, last updated, transaction price, list date, expiration date. That might be a good one. Closing date or submit by review. You can click all of these, or contract agreement date. So you can filter your dashboard any way you like it. I like it by creation date. That's just me. Also, you have a couple of views. This is the grid view. I like this the best. You have a list view, and then you have compact view. Again, I prefer the grid view. Let's see. So we're pretty much down to the last 3 minutes. Does anybody have any questions whatsoever? I do like to go into, you can type if you have any questions. This activity log, I do like to go over this. This is everything that we've done in this loop today. This is a very good if you want to know if somebody opened up a document, if the buyer agent got the document you sent them, did they open it, did they sign it? So this is going to tell you when the Dotloop team approved a certain form. So it's a very useful tool. And it's called just so you know, once you're in the loop and the loop is opened, you're going to go to activity log. There's also one of these in your loops. This is going to give you your activity log for absolutely everything that you have ever done in Dotloop. So this is a good reference point. One other thing I didn't cover that I wanted to cover, a lot of mortgage companies, underwriting companies will ask for a signature, proof of signature, okay? They want a proof of signature. So if you hit these three dots on the right and show signature verification, it's going to give you this. And this is the very reason why attorneys are allowing and use Dotloop, because it records their IP address. This is also why everybody has to have their own email. And this is why they will take this verification of signature. A underwriting will take this. It shows you can view this, you can print it, and then you can send it to your client or to who's ever asking it. So I do like to go over that real quick with you, is how to get that. Again, you have to find the signed document and you're going to hit the three dots and signature verification. Okay, so that gives us 1 minute. I want to thank everybody. I'm so glad that you came. I hope that this helped you tremendously. If you start using Dotloop and you run into an issue, just send an email to happyagent@larealty.com. They will assign your question to me. I will either show you how to do it or reach out by phone. I don't like to do it for you because I really like you to get to know your software. These are the tools of the trade. So again, happyagent@larealty.com, and they will send it to me. I am doing this training again. I am doing it at the last Thursday of this month, March, which I think is the 28th. I am doing it again at 12:30. So please tell your friends, come again and do this, because the more you use it, the more you're going to feel comfortable with it. I want to thank everybody again for showing up. Mary Glavy, thank you for being my uh, seller. I wish that compensation came with that for you, because you sold a lot of property through all this training. But until the end of the month, until March 28th, happy looping, everybody. Thank you for joining me. Have a great day. Bye-bye.